My name is Hanan Eissa. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Public Relations for Atlantis Dubai, and I'm filming with Next Gen Hotels.
Hanan, thank you so much for having us down to, I said it last week with Tom that we were in the coolest location. You've just topped it. So thank you so much for sitting down to have a chat with us. Would love to, firstly, just for anyone listening or watching, learn a little bit about yourself. Mm-hmm. We're here today at the Atlantis Dubai. You're VP of Marketing for Atlantis Dubai. How did you get here?
Wow. Well, first, thank you. I do like to be competitive, so hence the location. So I'm a little bit competitive, something about me. I got here actually by coincidence. I've had a wonderful series of coincidences in my life that have led me to this, place in space. I was actually meant to be a doctor. And so elementary school into high school, and then the first year of uni, I was studying pre-med. And then I woke up one day and decided I really don't want to be a doctor. And for an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old to wake up and do that, it's pretty scary, especially coming from a background where your career choice is a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. So it was an awakening, and so I sort of went on a journey to discover what I wanted to do, and I decided that I love to read, I love to write. I'm kind of interested in psychology. So what's a profession that can bring that all together? And it was marketing and marketing communication. So I started to sort of look at what this profession is, and it was nowhere near as sexy, 25 years ago, 30 years ago when I was studying, as it is now. And I kind of fell into it and just fell in love with it, I think more so. And I was very good. So I really, really enjoyed it. This was in Egypt because I decided to leave Australia and sort of soul search a little bit. So I ended up there, a very dynamic city called Cairo, a place called the Middle East, which was, at the time booming. So it was really exciting. And so I finished a marketing communications degree, then went on to work in consumer insights for a little while, then opened the first McCann office in Egypt. Okay. McCann was expanding at the time. I opened the first McCann office with a whole bunch of colleagues in strategic planning, pitched for the most incredible businesses, McDonald's, BMW, GM, Coca-Cola. So that was really, really fun. And then decided to sort of relocate back to Australia. Went home, worked for Nielsen for 3 years, which was amazing. And then I was approached by Schweppes at the time, my old boss. Sort of, moved over. He wanted to take me to Schweppes to do some insights work, did that, and then the top job came up, Schweppes. And, in your mid to late 20s, you're very confident, knocked on the director's door, or the VP's door at the time, and said, hey, I want to be the brand manager for Schweppes. And he was like, what? Okay, sure. So anyways, I put my hat in the ring, and at the time, he was a very brave, courageous man who gave this kid a shot. And it changed my life. I took Schweppes from a $200 million brand, and by the time I left, it was about $400 million. Made it younger and cooler, and then one day I get a phone call from Dubai, and they say, "Oh, we're the Atlantis. We want to, potentially interview you for a role to become the director of marketing for the water park." And I said, "Well, I don't know anything about hotels. I don't know anything about water parks." And they said, "We don't care. We want you to be commercial and FMCG background." And I went for the job, and a week later I had it. Packed up my life in Australia and moved to Dubai, and I think it's been 10 years to the year. Yeah.
I love that. It's such a fascinating background, an unusual one for us here on the podcast, because just traditionally it's from hospitality university to hotel undergrad, hotel. So amazing to get that understanding. I want to get into that in a second, but just to set the scene, I know 99% of people will know Atlantis and the group, but please, for those who don't, can you just give us a little overview so we have context?
Atlantis is a unique sensorial destination resort. It has 2 resorts, one being Atlantis the Palm, the other being Atlantis the Royal. One is geared towards adventure, The other one is luxury geared towards indulgence. And in between them, it's, got the world's largest water park, which is Aquaventure. And it's an incredibly unique place because within this 2-kilometre footprint, you have just about every experience you can imagine in your life. So it's all about delivering an extraordinary experience to the guests. So, you wake up in the morning and you can swim in here. And then in the afternoon, you can go down the world's, fastest water slides. And then in the evening, you have some of the best meals from Michelin star restaurants. So as a destination, it really provides something that is unique and extraordinary, and you never have to leave.
Yeah.
So that's Atlantis.
Amazing. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
So you're coming from a different background. Talk us through what the first month felt like in our wonderful world of hospitality, and being on the different side, right? Because I think people, I often have friends who say, "Oh, you're so lucky in hospitality," but sometimes it's not it's a little bit different than staying in the suite, right? When you're working in it. So what was that first few months like for you?
It was definitely a very steep learning curve. I think FMCG, as which is most of my career, has a certain pattern and has a certain way. But what I loved about moving into hospitality, I was master of my domain. I didn't have, when you work in FMCG, you're incredibly frustrated because everything that you do at the end of the day comes down to the retailer. Are you in Carrefour? Are you in Spinneys? Are you in Waitrose? And sometimes that can be very limiting. What I loved about moving into hospitality and into Atlantis was that I was the person who was driving, the channels and the markets. I didn't have to depend on anybody. If I wanted to create a new product, I could do that. I think that was very freeing and liberating. What was really challenging was it's a very hands-on role. So in FMCG, you really have a lot of agencies that you depend on. And back then, way back then, is agencies were the center of what, FMCG marketing is. When I got here, you're on your own. So, okay, I need to do a campaign. Okay, well, do the creative and figure it out. You're like, what do you mean? And so again, it was very liberating, but it was also very scary because that's not what you're used to. So it was definitely a really steep learning curve those first few months, but I loved it. I loved the challenge.
Yeah. You're kind of like a decade into hospitality now. Would you say there's anything that you think FMCG and maybe more consumer focused products do well that hotels could still today learn from, and maybe swap it the other way around? Is there anything that you think you do exceptionally well and we do in the hotel world?
I think brand governance. I think FMCG is incredible at really understanding the key consumer insight and translating that into the brand experience or the branding piece really, really well. When I started here, there wasn't really a thinking when it came to the brand. It was very commercial focused. We were very good at selling room nights, but how do you build a brand and make sure that brand stands on its own? And I think FMCG do that really, really well. And I believe some hospitality brands do that, but not to the degree that, FMCG does. And I think that's one of the things that Atlantis in the last 10 years, I hope that I've been trying to do is really build that brand. It's not just about the room night, it's about what the brand stands for. Atlantis stands for extraordinary, and I hope in our comms, in all of our messaging, that's what we deliver.
I really want to get into the opening in a moment, sure. But first, I think what would be interesting, you've got two hotels, probably like a 5-minute walk from each other, up the Palm 10-minute walk. So how, when you're sitting down as a team where you're all part of the same family, how do you make sure that they complement each other and not take away from one another?
That was about 2 years worth of work, if I'm being honest. Okay. It's really, really, really important that positioning is everything. Be really clear about the positioning of, especially when you've got two products that are side by side. In any, profession, you've even got that with, in my world, with soft drinks. You've got soft drinks that sit side by side with each other. One commands a higher price point than the other. So I think positioning is everything. And in this instance, it was really key to understand who the consumer was, knowing that they're the same markets, and then what they would be willing to pay for two products that are positioned differently. Okay. So, what we did with Atlantis the Royal was really create a luxury positioning, that experience that is wanted, that is desired, that is almost unattainable, that is actually a lifestyle. Okay. Atlantis the Royal isn't a hotel. And everybody thinks it's a hotel. It's a lifestyle. It's a cultural icon. And it created that. And that was how we launched it. And Atlantis the Palm is a place where you come and you feel that you're spending and connecting with your family. Warm, quality time. So really understanding the clarity of the positioning was the beginning of starting to create the differences within the resorts.
Okay.
And that was key.
Okay. Let's get to the thing that I think most hoteliers and even individuals globally were probably envious of.
Sure.
And I wish I'd known you before the launch party because I didn't get an invite. But talk us through, if you can.
Sure.
How do you ideate that? What does it look down when you sit in the room with your colleagues? And then, if you can, like just some of the challenges maybe that you experience, because I'm sure there may have been with such a legend. Like I've never seen something in our industry go so viral globally. So congrats firstly.
Thank you.
And then let's get into it.
I think, again, right, positioning. What do you want to do? You want to create a global icon, right? And to do that, you need a global icon. And so when the proposal came up for, the Queen, Beyonce, I think everybody was so shocked and scared, and I think also the fact that the first thing that happens, people's natural response is, no, it can't be done, right? So I think that was always the first response, and I'll answer the second part of your question in a second. But, I think everybody always talks about Beyonce and how you did it. And the reality was it took 5 no's until we got yes. So we keep coming back with addressing some of the key frustrations or the concerns or the issues that, why would this be suitable for Atlantis the Royal? And ultimately, it was the perfect storm. We were at the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. But it even goes back to before that. What we really wanted to do was create a moment in culture with Atlantis the Royal. Again, it wasn't a hotel opening. It was something that we wanted the world to talk about. And so how do you open a resort? Well, you create a music video with a music icon like Tiesto. So you're really clear about the positioning of your resort from a product pillar perspective. We're about music, we're about art, we're about culture, we're about food, right? So being really, and we're about, retail as well, which is really important. So we were really clear on what we were. It's just how do you then get that message out? So, you create a music video with Tiesto to launch it, and then it becomes, the number 1 selling hit on his album or on his new album for quite a while, and it hits the charts. So that's sort of the first part of the journey. Then the second part of the journey is visually, how do you make it look different than Atlantis the Palm? How do you position it to a different audience that is going to aspire to want to stay there and take that photo? And you end it with a launch like, the grand opening and Beyonce. And that project took 3 years of my life to plan, to execute, to make sure that we had the right profiles from the right markets and the right celebrities, the right partners. And it wasn't just about us internally, it was about getting all of our brand partners on board, all of our beverage partners as well, retail partners. So it really was an orchestra of bringing everybody together to sort of go through the weekend and create this product that was phenomenal. And
was there a change of date as well?
There was a small change of date, yes.
Wow.
There was a small change of date. And I think we managed that. I mean, in the moment, there were some scary moments, the really scary moments. But, you look back on it now and you go, it was the perfect storm. It happened for all the right reasons. And I think there is no way it can't be done without the most incredible team in the world. And a team that leaves an ego at the door and just gets on with it. You have to have a team that's willing to go so far out of their comfort zone and push so far out that, it's almost to the end of what you can achieve. And so we had that incredible team, and everybody did what anybody needed to do. You weren't in marketing, you weren't in operations, you just did the job that had to be done, no matter where you were. Yeah. So I think without that, there was no way we could have succeeded.
Again, I just want to say congrats, because it was amazing. I would imagine it probably felt like, how do you design the seating table for the Met Gala or for the Oscars, because everyone's a celeb? Yes. How do you pick who gets what room?
Do you know, the rooming list was the hardest part, actually. The rooming list was the hardest part. But actually, most people were just really happy to be there. Yeah. And ultimately, the star of the show was the Royal, and, the highlight was Beyonce. So nobody could dispute who got the best room. It was Beyonce. So that was easy.
Yeah.
And then everybody else was actually mostly happy to be there. Really, really. They were very genial. They were very kind. And whoever got a room that was a queen room, they were happy. They were happy to be there.
Yeah. No, amazing. I was just interested on a person.
Yeah, there was a few funny stories. I can't share them, unfortunately. But,
Don't worry. Off camera.
Got through the weekend. We got through it.
I'd like part of this podcast is for younger people who maybe are thinking about maybe entering the world of hospitality as a career, or else they're like super junior in their journey and they look up to individuals like yourself. So if we can get like a little bit tactical for a minute.
Yeah, of course.
So I've always said to our team, like, there's a huge change in what the consumer is now looking up to, and like the people behind the brand are just as important more than ever. And if you look at, Prime, the new drink from KSI and Logan, if you look at what, the Kardashians have done with their brands, there's just, the guys doing, Conor McGregor doing the whiskey and the tequila, it's just non-stop now. Ryan Reynolds is incredible.
Yeah.
But there's also a huge amount of influencers who probably don't have any real impact. So when a team is sitting down and a marketing team is like, how do I track this ROI? How do you tactically look at using influencers to, build a brand influence and get people to buy into it?
I think my team is incredibly clever in the sense that, and again, this goes to my team because, I might be the face of the team, but it's actually my team who does an incredible job. They really vet who the influencers are and ultimately what the goal is. The goal is always the brand, right? So the goal is always the brand to shine at the heart of everything. And I think what they do incredibly well is they make sure that who they bring in adds value to the brand. I don't need an influencer to pose on the pool. There are 30,000 people who come and stay here and do that. What's the value? Is it the value in terms of content? Is it the value in terms of audience? Is it the value in terms of, like you say, brands and partnerships? So really understanding the intrinsic value of what that influencer is going to bring to the brand and the business is actually at the heart of everything they vet and always what they do. And then sometimes we have micro influencers. So there are some influencers that might have 45,000 followers that sometimes achieve a greater impact than those who have 1 million followers. So again, being really clear on what the objective is, where they're going and what they're doing is really important. And then they build incredible itineraries to support that. So the itineraries that they build within that even is really, really detailed. And I mean, they are an army of amazing people that sit behind that and are really meticulously going through what the outcome is. You have to be really clear on where you're going and what you want in order to do what we do, particularly from an influencer perspective, because again, the influencer wants the best shot, wants the best place, and wants to do what they want to do. So how do you steer them towards what you want as a brand and what the value is to the brand? And I think that's what the team does incredibly well. If
you were like a smaller brand than Atlantis, maybe with smaller budgets, for example, I think a lot of maybe some of the more junior marketing teams might be like, but they keep asking for like an ROI and how do I track an ROI? And there's always that fight between sometimes finance and marketing between, I'm sure you've experienced it, and this is not just hotels, of course, we have it in our own company. Yeah. Like, how do you manage that? I think the ROI, ROI is a really, really interesting discussion because it gets discussed in the boardrooms a lot and, and it gets tested and debated a lot. I mean, the simplest, for me, the simplest ROI is always holistic. The challenge is this. When somebody talks about an ROI for something, it's that moment in time. The reality around marketing, it is the cumulative value of what you do, right? You do it today, it might pay off in 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, 15 months. The key to marketing is consistency. So when I get challenged on ROI, what does this ROI have today? My response is always, well, what's the risk of not doing it? Because today I don't have anything and tomorrow I don't have anything and then I just do something for a little while. Actually, consistency builds a better ROI to our overall sales marketing, performance versus financial performance versus not doing it. So I think the ROI context when we get challenged as marketers is always about a point in time. Okay. But really the true value, it's what's the risk in not doing it? What happens when we don't do it? If we're silent, what happens? And then
marketing, everybody has to remember that marketing, the value of marketing is building brand over time. You know, what Atlantis is today is because of what it's done for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
And what the Royal did, that one moment, is going to continue with it for many, many years to come. And that's why it needed to be a moment that nobody could forget, because the value wasn't that point in time. It was actually for the many years to come.
Yeah. I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'll ask you what your thoughts are on it first before I ask the question. But in the world of hospitality, the big debate is direct bookings versus online travel agencies. You know, the two big ones being Booking.com and Expedia. So what are your first thoughts on that dynamic, just broadly speaking?
It's where the consumer is.
Yeah, okay.
It doesn't matter what people book, it's where the consumer is. You have to be where the consumer is, and you have to take that booking no matter where the consumer is.
Yeah. One thing I would be worried about as a hotelier is that the new Genius Level 3 program and the Expedia 1 program, and hotels are paying an extra 7% to be part of bookings. Like, it's just, it really blows my mind that we're paying them more commission to be part of their loyalty program. Do you as a team, or do you as your industry friends, you go, right, like, what are the tactics to get more direct bookings? Do you speak in that terminology?
100%.
Okay.
So, you know, I give you an example, Atlantis the Palm, we have a members program. And if you book through our members program, not so much about the discount, but the value that you get. So how do you create a unique set of circumstances or experiences that I can own you as a guest and as a customer that would definitely not be the same if I booked you through, you know, Booking.com or Expedia or whatnot. So, you know, we have to be where the consumer is across the board, because the consumer books how they want to book. But for those who are tinkering and they're an online booker and they're not quite, you know, sure where to go, I think, how do we sweeten the deal for them by telling them that Booking Direct actually is much more favorable for them? So what's the value back to the guest? That's the first thing. And I think the second thing is making it easy for the guest to book. One of the unique things about bookings is in 3 clicks you've booked, and they give you all the assurances that you can cancel and you can do this and you can do that. I think as hoteliers, we need to be as seamless. So we need to compete on a level playing field, not just moan about why they're so good. I could sit back and watch, or I could actually do something about it. So let's have a great booking engine experience. Let's make it easy for the guests to book. Let's give them the reassurances that our partners do. And then let's give them benefits that our partners can't do. Yeah. And I think with that recipe, that you can definitely, you know, gain that share.
I love that you said that. I've had hotel websites on mobile with their deal pop up to block me on the checkout button. You know, not having Apple Pay, Google Pay. Like, our website conversion as an industry compared to e-commerce is so bad, right? But we're not even giving people easy payment methods. Like, 100%. We're asking for their life story before they can say book.
100%.
Yeah. And that's nothing really to do with marketing. It is everything to do with it, but it's just simple tactical things that,
So let's have a level playing field and then say, you know, then I think that then we'll be able to really put up a good fight for them, with them.
I mean, thank you for going into such detail. I'd like to switch it up a little bit. We're in, I think, the most fortunate place to be in when it comes to hospitality, and I've always thought about it deeply, and I think one of the reasons is that our lives revolve around hotels in Dubai. Like, if we go for nice dinner, the restaurant's partner with the hotel. You probably dislike it because we work in them, but you know, you're going for the beach for on a Sunday, you're in hotels. If there was a city that was like, if people said describe a city that is a hotel, I'd say Dubai. Like, it's just, we're just blessed.
Yep.
However, from someone working from one of the leaders, you've got a lot of competitors, right? Like, how do you differentiate yourself?
I think stay unique. Again, right? I honestly, we're true to our brand. Our brand is about extraordinary experiences. So as much as I have many wonderful hotels and resorts and competitors in the city, we're focused on us. And we just stay true to who we are and what we do. And I think that we continue to top what we do. Our biggest competitor is us. You know, we continue to raise our own bar. And I think we don't really look around very much. And that's not because of arrogance, it's because we're focused on what we need to do and how we need to do it. And we just stay focused on delivering that extraordinary experience, and how do we top that extraordinary experience, and how do we do this better and do this better and do this better. And actually it's exhausting, but because we compete with ourselves. And I think we're very fortunate that we've got an incredible product, but I think at the heart of it is making sure that product stays incredible. So how do we as a brand and as a business continue to introduce products that are relevant to people, that people want, that people love or are going to love, I think is also quite important, that we continue to innovate within our product and within our portfolio.
Yeah. You've a very, like, we use the word in the industry, curated experience quite a lot. But then, like, as one example, not to go back to it, but if it comes through booking.com, we know very little about that guest. So how do you curate it, right? Because before they arrive at the reception, it's hard to do it. So when you look at differentiating yourself from competitors by curating a guest experience, what does that look like in practicality when you sit down to talk about it?
Again, it depends on the guest preferences as well. So, when we try to collect as much of the guest preferences as we can, but we already know that, you're a family, you're from Germany, you've got 2 children that are under the age of 10. So automatically we can curate that experience when you walk into the room. We've got our, obviously our children's amenities. When you arrive at reception, depending on the time of day, we've got our characters that come out and meet the children and distract them a little bit while their parents are checking in. And so we actually already have a lot of information about that. We probably have your birthday information, so we already know when your birthday is. And so we use those little moments and the little bits of information to kickstart the journey of curating that experience for you. And then as your stay comes along and we learn a little bit more about you, we then continue to tailor that throughout your stay.
Yeah, and like you said, the product is phenomenal, right? So you're probably never short of ideas.
No, we're very lucky.
If you looked kind of like, you're obviously an industry leader and I'm sure a thought leader. So if you look at kind of the next few years, do you see anything, I know it's always $1 million question, but anything new coming in terms of tactics on the PR marketing side? Are there things you're excited to try out?
The beauty about marketing and PR is, as long as it adds value to the brand, we're always excited about doing different things, whether it's on the event space, so we want to do more events, some exciting things. Atlantis the Palm particularly, we love stunts. So what are some interesting stunts? We've done quite a few stunts with, for example, our partners Red Bull or Shandong. We did the world's largest champagne tower with Moet and Shandong, which was an incredible experience. So long as it adds value to the guest and tells our brand story, we push the boundaries of what that are in terms of activations to stay relevant, to stay culturally relevant, I think is really, really important. So it's really hard to tell what those, trends are and what's coming, but whatever does come our way, we are very confident that we always like to push the boundaries, and we probably do so, and we've got the liberty to do so more than a lot of other brands that are much more traditional in hospitality, and that's understandable. They are for that reason. So the world is our oyster, quite literally.
If you look at brand partnerships, because you've done a pretty well-known one recently, if we can name
Louis
it.
Vuitton? Yeah.
So can you talk me through, again, just something from like start of idea to, hey, Louis Vuitton, do you want to talk about this, to bringing it to life, and then what you feel 2 brands in premium luxury bring to one another?
Louis Vuitton was a really interesting one. So they were opening a store, and I'd worked on that whole partnership from the beginning.
In the hotel?
In the hotel at Atlantis the Royal. And then I went to Cannes, to the Lions. So I took my team to the Cannes Lions just to get some inspiration, which I very much recommend for all marketing teams, to get some inspiration. And I sat through a talk by the global head of merchandising for Louis Vuitton. Her name is Faye McLeod. And she did a talk on some of the key activations that they'd done with Kusama and, Louis 200. And I remember looking at the team and I said, that's the lady that's going to do our 1-year anniversary partnership with Louis Vuitton. And she works for Louis Vuitton. And so we approached her and she loved the idea. And what we really wanted to do is be really playful and different. A brand like Louis Vuitton is very, or a luxury brand, you would expect a certain kind of activation. And she came up with this crazy idea by bringing Vivian, which is their mascot. Somewhat, I think Louis Vuitton would hate me saying mascot, but she'd bring her out and create custom-made Vivians who are experiencing the resort like a guest. And then add another layer to that. We'd add a digital layer, an AR layer to it, so you could actually bring the whole activation to life as Vivian celebrated the 1-year anniversary. So that was what I loved about that. It was a collaboration between 2 brands. It wasn't Louis Vuitton coming in to say, this is what we want to do. It was actually Louis Vuitton coming in to say, how can we celebrate your 1 year together? And so we worked together on a scope, we worked together on the activations, we worked together on the execution, and it was amazing. It was phenomenal. I mean, everybody, comes and takes photos with the Vivians and, uses the AR technology. It's really, really engaging and different. So I think great partnerships it's a win-win. It's not one-sided.
Yeah. Is there a lot of when you look at that, the word Instagrammable,
Yes.
is that a thought process? Because they'll take a photo and then they'll authentically share it on their social medias.
100%.
Naturally. Okay.
100%. I think,
Right.
we always say that, Atlantis the Royal is the most Instagrammable hotel in the world. It probably is, right? With when you come in and you see droplets and you see the lobby and everything that happens within it. And so it was always playing on that. How do you make sure that, it's part of those really shareable moments, and how do you create, also to make it authentic and part of the ecosystem. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel unnatural. And I think they're the best kinds of partnerships.
Amazing. I want to get into a bit of advice questions. So if you were speaking to, an audience full of individuals who are just about to jump into their first job in hospitality and maybe in the marketing side, from, your incredible rise, what would be the few pieces of advice you'd leave them with?
The first thing is that marketing isn't Instagram.
It isn't Instagram. Okay.
Correct. Marketing is product, price, place, promotion. I think that that's something that marketers or young marketers tend to forget, that fundamentally there are 4 P's in marketing and promotion is the last P. So make sure that the other P's are really, really strong. And I fundamentally believe this, and I've been working in this industry for 25 years. And as the industry has evolved and changed, and new media has become the thing that people, sort of lead with. But actually, it's the other 3 P's that are probably more important that leads you to the shareability, the Instagram, all of that. So I think it's really important. I think the second thing is have patience.
To millennials, really, in Gen Z.
Well, I say that to my 13-year-old, and I know it's a hard thing to do, but I think something really important is marketing is about consistency. Just because you created something and you see it 12 times, 15 times, 18 times, doesn't mean the consumer does. I think consistency is really, really important, and consistency of message and consistency of presence, even if it's low level, even if it's in different places, consistency is everything, because marketing is all about memory retrieval, and that's the psychology part, right? People think that, I've got a campaign and it's out and it's gone. It's about consistency. It's about at that moment in time when you're searching for a hotel or a holiday, you retrieve that little piece of information in the back of your mind and you go, I remember I saw something about this resort that had fish in a tank in a room, and that's the trigger, right? So I think consistency and patience is really, really, really important. And also have fun. We're in a beautiful industry, and we bring joy to people. Holidays are all about people making connections. And I think we take ourselves too seriously sometimes. Can't forget that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And on that, just for another piece of advice, you are, who am I to give you top prize, but probably top prize in marketing properties, right? Because everyone knows everything about it, so congrats. But so many hotels have such amazing assets, and I feel they're pretty terrible at showcasing those assets. So if you were to sit down with now an audience full of industry colleagues and you were to share some pieces of advice, what would maybe be the advice to fellow hoteliers?
I think be more real, be more comfortable with your assets and your product. I used to get caught in this a lot, and it's actually my team who have taught me a lot less retouching, a lot less, be confident with your product. Make sure that you make people feel what the product is rather than just show what the product is. Connecting, I think, is really, really important. We love a crisp bedspread, and, we really love it to be perfectly retouched. And I think moving away from that into being more real, I think, is appreciated much more by the consumer. And we're terrified of that. Okay. A little bit of courage.
How do you do that? Is that user-generated content? Is that making the bed messy before you take the picture?
A combination of things. I think it's UGC.
Okay.
I think it's being more comfortable not to retouch. I mean, most of the images that we did on the Royal, there was very, very little retouching that was involved in that. Like making it, using beautiful sunlight, making sure that everything isn't so perfect. And, so I think being comfortable that, your product is beautiful, and the consumer doesn't expect perfection. I think is definitely something that we should be as an industry working towards.
Okay. I want to ask a few quick fire ones before we get into the last question. Is there a campaign, it doesn't have to be in hospitality, and it can't be one you've done, that you admire over the last, let's say, 12 months, and you're like, that was really smart, and why was it smart?
Okay. I do have a campaign, but okay. So about
for episode 2,
8 months ago or 9 months ago, I'm not sure it was. Okay, so McDonald's did an incredible campaign across Dubai. It was the chicken nugget campaign.
Okay.
It was incredible. I loved it. It was like so simple, but it was all about their chicken nuggets. And so they had like, if you drove around Dubai, they had like, even on the, like Sheikh Zayed Road, they had billboards of like the dancing chicken nuggets. It was so simple, so quirky and funny, but so impactful. I loved it. I think McDonald's do some pretty clever, fun things, actually.
Yes, yeah, agree. Now this, I can't have a political answer here.
Oh, gosh.
It has to be real.
All right.
If you're going to give kudos to a friend in the industry, Atlantis is without a doubt top of the pops. So let's get that out first.
All right, got it.
If you were to give kudos, even if it was muttered under your breath, to another brand in our industry that you respect for what they do, as an industry friend, can you give those kudos? And what would be one that you'd be like, I respect that a lot?
I have loved what Yas Island have done with Ryan Reynolds. I think it's really good. Oh, come on. You don't want to give me that one?
No.
No, come on.
It has to be a hotel brand.
Oh, it's time.
Give it the other side of the world where there's no Atlantis.
Okay. Oh, dear. Okay, let me think. Shangri-La. I think Shangri-La have done a really, really nice job with their new campaign. I really like it. Yeah, I think they've done a really, really good job with the whole Shangri-La premise of, Eden and, I think they've done a really good job.
Okay. Final question.
Sure.
Go back to Atlantis. What does the future look like for you here, for your team here, and for the brand? What's next?
Oh, my goodness. What does the future look like? I mean, for us, the beauty about this place is no single day is the same. Okay. So I don't know exactly what that will be, but I think greater things are always on the horizon for us. We're ever ambitious, and we're forever building. I'm not sure where and what we're going to be building, but we're building a few things. Actually, we've got a nice couple of projects that are coming up quite soon. I think the team for us is all about settling. We've got a lot of new things that have happened in the last 12 months, and I think getting used to having another gigantic property. I think optimizing, sometimes it's just good to settle. We've got, quite a few new people in the team. So how do we really, work together as a great team and do that? And I think just managing the property to success, both properties, but especially ATR because it's so new, how do we continue to build on the success that we've gained so far?
Okay. Amazing. And I don't say this often, but this is easily one of my favorite episodes ever. So I think I learned a lot. I'm sure we'll definitely have to come back for a round 2. Unfortunately, we try to keep it time. And I know it's going to roll over, but it was amazing. So thank you so much.
You've been great.
Really
thank you so much. I love the questions. Thank you.